Welcome to Velocity City, where you get to know about all the exciting news and updates about our beloved sport, Formula 1. Today, we will discuss what a dreadful weekend in Monaco it was for Sergio Perez, his abysmal crash in the qualifying, then a lackluster race. What can he do to catch up to Max Verstappen? Is he even a contender for the World Championship this season? We will discuss in detail about everything. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe and press the bell icon to get regular updates from Velocity City. Let's get started. Sergio Perez's 2023 Monaco F1 Grand Prix was one to forget. He came to Monaco 14 points behind Max Verstappen and fell to 39 after failing to score, and the Dutchman's 25 points for victory. He was forced to start last on the grid in Monaco's narrow streets due to his collision on Saturday, which obviously had an impact on everything. He also failed to catch up in the race. In earlier races, he had been dubbed the king of the street circuits. But Monaco was his worst nightmare. Referring to Perez as the king of street circuits has always been a stretch. Yes, he wins more races on street circuits than anywhere else, but a sample size of just 5 or 6 street circuit victories throughout his Formula 1 career hardly justifies such a distinction. Coming into qualifying, he was unquestionably the favourite to contend for the pole position. That lasted up until 6 minutes into Saturday's Q1. Perez entered the first corner at an excessively high pace. His car was completely ruined as he lost control of the vehicle's rear and slid it at high speed into the barrier. The side pod, front wing, and rear suspension were all clearly wrecked immediately. He could have easily gotten into Q2 by driving cautiously, and he knew it, so it was a terrible error to make. "Unbelievable day. I cannot believe what I've done," Perez said. "It just caught me by surprise. Just getting that rear out of shape, especially really late into the corner. It's a way of how we are trying to get the lap time out of it, but I just went over the limit. And I became a passenger. There was nothing else I could do because I was really late in the corner. I could not cut the corner or go out of the corner." When asked how his error caused him to finish last on the leaderboard, he responded, "Yeah, it came around as a big surprise. That isn't an excuse. I should have done better today. And all I can say is I'm very sorry to my team because you put so much energy and so much work into preparing everything. And then you just disappointed everyone like this. I'm super disappointed today with myself, and I know that tomorrow it's going to be an impossible race." Red Bull team owner Christian Horner looked for an explanation for his driver's expensive error, suggesting he was possibly preoccupied with traffic. "I can only think that he was distracted by the Alpine on the right-hand side because he just misjudged that first turn, and the circuit was only going to get faster and faster," he said. He'll be kicking himself for that. "I think he just went in too fast. Maybe he was distracted. You can see the overspeed. He had a bit of snap on entry, and it wasn't a small tap." Interestingly, Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko was not impressed and did not know why the error occurred. To Sergio, if you have a car like that, then you shouldn't be thrown out in Q1. That was a stupid mistake on his part. Maybe he was thinking too much about the World Championship. Choose your defences, but I highly doubt they will hold up. Whichever way you looked at it, the error was wholly unacceptable. Although I don't think he could beat Max in Monaco. It required one of Max Verstappen's greatest qualifying runs to defeat Fernando Alonso and secure the pole position in the tense Q3 session. I don't believe Perez had a shot at the front row, given the speed those two were going at. Before the Monaco Grand Prix, Perez's gap to teammate Max Verstappen was only 14 points. Leclerc was 6 points behind Verstappen at that stage in the previous session and was still thought to be very much in the race. With a victory in Monaco, the margin would have been reduced by at least 7 points, if not more. But if I'm wrong, Q1 eliminated all likelihood of it happening. He is currently behind his colleague by 39 points and needs a miracle to close the gap and rejoin the title race. Perez's performance in the race wasn't much better than in qualifying. He appeared unpredictable and dangerous on the track due to his eagerness to enter the points and attempt to salvage his title hopes. To overtake the driver of Aston Martin, he banged wheels with Lance Stroll and continued straight rather than taking a curve. As Lance attempted to recover the place Sergio had wrongfully usurped, he blocked him off and protested to the squad about being shoved off. A few circuits later, to pass Kevin Magnussen, he decided to rear-end him. He suffered front wing damage that required replacement at his subsequent pit stop and dropped behind Lance. The competition between those three drivers lasted the entire race, and it was clear that the former colleagues Stroll and Perez were desperate to return to their proper positions. The two were tied for the weekend's worst drivers in every driver ranking I've seen, and for good reason. Perez was ultimately merely deployed as a dummy for tyre swaps as the rain started to fall, allowing the team to conduct well-timed pit stops for Max Verstappen, helping him seal the victory. He had practically little chance of finishing in the points in Monaco because of his qualifying error, but his performance throughout the race ensured he wouldn't fight Max for the championship this year. Helmut Marko summed up Perez's weekend by saying, "I hope that today's mistakes are enough for the rest of the season." He kind of defended Perez by saying, "It was clear that we would have to go for a different strategy, the soft tyre and after one lap on hard. Unfortunately, that went wrong because of the collision." Marko continued, "I hope today's mistakes were enough for the rest of the season. It was not only his fault but also the team's. Generally, his speed was good when driving in free air, but his crash in qualifying ruined the weekend." That is the current state of affairs for Perez. This season, he can't make another error. In most cases, Verstappen will outdrive him. Sergio's only option is to cross his fingers. He could even wish for a stupid mistake from Max, the machine. He cannot, however, afford another 0-point performance while he waits. I'd even venture to suggest that for the remainder of the season, he can't even afford to be placed outside of the top two. And even then, he'd have to hope that Verstappen experiences some major setbacks at several different races. Perez is well aware of the uphill battle he now faces. "I think we've paid the price for my mistake in qualifying," Perez told reporters. "That's been very costly. I just have to apologise to my whole team. It is unacceptable to have this kind of mistake. I just have to move on, learn from it, and I cannot afford another 0 in the championship." When asked what he has learned from this mistake, he said, "I've learned basically that I should have taken things a bit easier. Everything was too late. It was a combination of things. We decided last minute to go for that lap. And then we had the Alpine just in front of us, which took all the tailwind on the braking. Not taking the last-minute decisions will help us as well, but I should have done a better job at preempting the situation." Verstappen now has 144 points, Perez has 105 and Alonso's 93. Perez is 39 points behind Max. The season still has 16 races remaining. To be a title candidate in Formula 1, you must complete that distance without making big mistakes, which is difficult. At this point, Perez is aware that Max will perform nearly flawlessly, and he must avoid making any mistakes. He has to show that he is capable of winning the World Championship, which is almost impossible to be honest. Else, Max would have him as his wingman for the remainder of the campaign. So what do you think Chico could have done differently to make his race a little bit better? I know it's almost impossible, but do you think he has a chance to win in the championship this season? Well, I know my answer, but what do you think? Don't be shy, hit the comment section below and start the conversation. And don't forget to subscribe to get more exciting Formula 1 news. Thanks for tuning in, take care and see you next time.